Our next speaker will be Shin. Jay has been a leader in the development of various genomic technologies and has a particular interest in understanding and using them for the understanding of cell-fate decisions. Jay is currently a team leader at the Riken Institute in Japan and leads the work in the Laboratory for Advanced Genomic Circuits. In addition, Jay has been a real pioneer and driving force with others to bring together the human cell atlas community across Asia. So with that, I'll hand it over to Jay.
Hello, my name is Shin, and I am a team leader at Riken Institute in Japan. And I'm also one of the OC members of the Human Cell Atlas. And here I'm happy to talk to you about the Human Cell Atlas Asia efforts that are ongoing. And hopefully that can give you some insights towards building a Human Cell Atlas Latin America. I think we all agree with the mission of the Human Cell Atlas, and that is to create a comprehensive reference map of all cell types in the human body. And that really is to help us understand, diagnose, monitor, treat health and disease. And in order to achieve this effort, we need to generate many data sets, single cell data sets across many different research institutions. And the question is how we can ensure a greater representation and diversity that are captured across different regions of the world. And I was really motivated by these guiding principles that were first introduced from the very beginning of the Human Cell Atlas. And these two words, community and diversity, really spoke to me and thought how we can build community and promote diversity from Asia to really have a greater participation and representation in the global setting. And just taking these direct quotes from the white paper, the mission was always from the beginning to capture both breadth and depth of different cells that will fully represent the world's diversity, and that HCA is committed to genetic and geographic diversity and equity at every phase. So to understand and to capture this type of genetic and geographic diversity, we wanted to first understand what are the situations in Asia and how we can identify some of the common interests and goals amongst the scientists. But before that, I just want to give you a quick overview of the continent. And Asia is currently the home to about 60% of the world's population. That's about 4.3 billion people. And the most populous countries like China and India are both in Asia. So you can tell from this vast landscape of the continent, there is an abundant genetic, ethnic, cultural, environmental, and even socio-economic diversity. However, unfortunately, there's a lack of central governing body, unlike the US or Europe, where it can really bring people together for a common goal or common project, unless there is an effort through consortiums to bring people together. Another issue and pressing issue that we recognize is that despite the large population of Asian ancestry, there's only about 1 to 2% genomic data in the world database. And that really limits the clinical utility of this data set for the Asian population. So the question is how we can change this in order to reach a more equitable data set that can increase utility and provide the right data sets and information for clinicians or researchers. So to begin, we kind of wanted to meet and discuss some of these issues and also to talk about what are some of the ongoing research that are happening in the region. So in 2017, Piero Caninci and myself hosted several scientists across Asia in Okinawa, Japan, and we kind of identify some of the societal needs and some of the challenges that are happening in individual countries in Asia, and we further strategize how to increase participation and representation and leadership in the global setting. So that really was a successful meeting, and there were a lot of excitements that came out of that meeting. So in 2018, Sanyong Kim and Onyang Park co-hosted the meeting in Jeju Island in South Korea. And just last year in 2019, Shayan Prabhakar hosted us in Singapore, where we had over 300 participants talking about some of these issues and also sharing some of the latest single cell research as well. So some of these takeaways that we got from these HCA Asia meetings are that first, there are already many active single cell research happening in Asia, with many of them are a shared interest and common themes that can really bring people together. Another strength is that there is a genetic and environmental diversity, which gives us access to large population cohorts, but also access to very unique disease cohorts as well. And the third strength is, we're all in the same time zone, which meant no jet lag. So many of us were alert to have a much more interesting dialogues and active discussions and participation in these meetings, which always is a good thing. But we also came up and identified some of these challenges, which was that many different countries in Asia possess different local regulations and variations across what defines as ethics and what are some of the policies around data release. So to iron these out, it's going to require some time and a lot of discussion across different policymakers, even in different countries in the continent. We also recognize that many of the local funders are shifting towards translational disease rather than basic research. So this is something that as we come together and formulate projects is something we also have to be aware of and ensure that we are satisfying the requirements of the local funders, but at the same time to fulfill the missions of the Human Cell Atlas. A third point we identified as a challenge is that majority of the nations in Asia are still considered emerging and developing countries. And that comes with the fact that because of the lack of central governing or funding bodies, many of the resources are limited to initiate a lot of these research projects together. But that also creates an opportunity for us to come together, at least to discuss how we can harmonize and standardize protocols and methods in order that when individual labs generate data sets, that we can ensure that they're all integratable. And I think it gives us an opportunity to coordinate and identify common interests so that we can bring people together to create more valuable data sets. And we can also organize annual meetings to exchange ideas and to promote regional scientists and research that are happening. And we also recognize that equity, gender balance, especially gender balance in Asia, and ethics are something that we really want to promote. And hopefully through help of the international community, that we can also bring a lot of these to fruition. And hopefully we can also provide an opportunity where we can co-apply or support local funders to initiate some of these common interest goals that are happening in Asia. So we thought that one of the logical ways to proceed is to create a steering committee that has the following values, which is to build communities and to provide the right communications with the local communities, to the regional community, and to the global communities. And that we will provide an opportunities and showcase a lot of the regional science, hopefully in the global settings. And through that, we can strengthen the regional research network and identify areas that we can synergize so that we will reduce the redundancies and provide areas that we can come together more effectively and accelerate the research progress in the region. And hopefully through all of these efforts that we can diversify the HCA database. So this is a provisional schematics of how we envision the HCA Asia Steering Committee to be, and that we will lies with global HCA to coordinate annual meetings and workshops, and to collaborate also with Equity Working Group, which we will hear about, and to provide the right communication and ethical toolkits in order to ensure standardization across the board. And that the committee will ensure we will build communities through identifying flagship projects and to bring people and scientists together to tackle some of these issues that are very much prevalent in the region. And these are just examples of what it can be, such as cancer, diabetes, infectious disease, aging, and genetic diversity. And once we identify these flagship projects, that we can work with funders to co-apply or support some of these individual research groups to pursue some of these flagship projects in order to generate sufficient data sets that can be then deposited into the HCA data portal, and hopefully that can achieve the equity and diversity goals of the Human Cell Atlas, and at the same time provide clinical utility and benefits in the region and meet the societal needs. So just want to highlight some of the key flagship projects, potential flagship projects that could happen in Asia, such as cancer, which is a very prominent problem especially in East Asia. As you can see here on the right-hand side, the colon and rectum cancer are prevalent in Japan, Taiwan, and Singapore. But conversely, you also have cervix cancer, which is also a big issue in Cambodia and India. So this is an area that we do have to dive into and understand what will be the relevant healthy reference data set that we need to generate to address some of these cancer that are across the Asian region. Another challenge that we face in Asia is diabetes. And this prevalence of diabetes is rapidly increasing in Asia compared to any other regions in the world. And one of the arguments for that is mainly due to the changes in diet and lifestyle, many of the high-fat diets that many of our bodies may not be used to. But at the same time, it's not only the lifestyle, but the makeup of our human physiology and the genetics do contribute to different pathology of diabetes and even different treatment response to, for example, DPP-4 inhibitors seems to be more effective in Asians versus other ethnic groups. And if you look at the reports from US Department of Health Human Services, that Asian Americans are 40% more likely to be diagnosed with diabetes than non-Hispanic whites, suggesting that it's not, of course, the environmental factor, but also genetic factors can attribute to the risks of developing this disease. Another prominent disease that are very big in Asia, especially in Southeast Asia, is infectious disease. And that's largely because these diseases are that the pathogen strains are very different across different parts of the world. And many of these countries are rapidly evolving through social and environmental changes. And there's not a very good governance of how to control for some of these diseases. And there are a lot of overlapping roles that are losing out on potential synergy that perhaps the HCA Asia can bring about. A fourth item here is aging, and this could be a disease of the present and even in the future. And what I mean by that is in Japan and in South Korea in the 10-year span of 2007 to 2017, Alzheimer's disease have been ranked #1, rapidly causing death in these two countries. And while the cases of cancer and heart disease may be decreasing, these age-related neurodegenerative disease is causing a big issue. And we could easily envisage that in the next 10 or 20 years, that many other countries in Asia or around the world may acquire age-related disease to be the leading cause of death. So kind of preemptively studying this and tackling this issue may be very important. think genetic variation is important, and to understand that there are different diversity groups. And this GenomeAsia 100K consortium reported that there are about 10 different ancestral groups. So we need to also understand genetic basis of human disease in order to provide the right clinical data set. So this effort needs to continue to understand how the genetics then attributes to response to disease, pathology of the disease, but also response to particular disease. So one of the efforts to address some of these issues is we started a collaborative group in Asia called Asian Immune Diversity Atlas, and that is to build a reference data set across the immune cell types. And that is a collaboration work between RIKEN in Japan, Unyang Park in Korea, and Cheyenne Walker in Asia. And the goal is to collect and profile 100 individuals' peripheral blood mononuclear cells, or PBMCs, through a highly standardized and harmonized methods together with genotyping. And hopefully we can use this information to understand how different genetic variations can attribute to different gene expression patterns, and be able to understand how perhaps also how different environmental factors can attribute to different gene expression patterns. So AIDA team we're meeting every 2 weeks, and we're very active. We have Slack work groups, we have Google Drives to share documents. We discussed a lot about how to standardize protocols, questionnaires, the metadata, and we have successfully pooled and multiplexed 16 different individuals into a single 10x runs to generate such data set, which significantly reduces the cost of single cell data production. And we have recently integrated these data sets from 3 Asian countries. So what you see here is a UMAP on the left-hand side of different cell types that are found in PBMCs. And on the right-hand side is the colorations based on Japan, Korea, and Singapore. And you can see a very nice overlap between the 3 countries through a large standardization efforts, both from a data production as well as sample preparation, as well as data analysis. So in summary, I just want to highlight that it is very important to identify what are some of the strengths and challenges and opportunities in the region, and hopefully through this HCA Latin America that some of these issues can be discussed, and that hopefully the efforts will always be centered around communities, building communities towards a common interest and common needs. And one of our ways to do that was to create flagship projects, but I'm sure there are many other opportunities or creative ways to do this. And third is, I think it's important to create a steering committee or some governing body that can help to organize and execute all of these ideas more systematically, but also to align with the global HCA missions so that a lot of the data productions, the methods can be highly standardized across the board. So with that, I just want to end by introducing to our next HCA Asia virtual meeting, which will be held in October 22nd to 23rd in China, and it'll be hosted by Dr. Goju Go. So if for more information, you can click on the link. And with that, I'd like to thank you for your attention, and hopefully I'll be available to take any questions. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much, Jay. So before we jump into a few questions, also want to continue to encourage everyone that's listening to contribute questions, and feel free to reach out. Again, feel free to use whichever language you're most comfortable asking those questions in. So to jump in, Jay, there was a great question that's specifically around how many Asian countries are currently engaged. And I think you showed one slide of some early efforts among multiple countries to contribute data, but maybe then specifically, which groups are actively generating data and contributing it to the HCA?
To answer that, it comes in different levels. I guess at the moment, the AIDA project, or the Asian Immune Atlas project that I mentioned, is only 3. But as Jonah or others have mentioned earlier, there's an opportunity to expand to other Asian countries, which we plan to do. So we are in discussion with a few other countries to join the AIDA project. And that's to contribute to the Immune Atlas. I believe there are other countries, especially in China, who are generating a lot of single cell data sets individually or as a group. Um, I don't have the exact statistics to say exactly how much data from China is being deposited into DCP. However, I believe a lot of the single cell data is publicly available upon publication. We do need to work closely with the equity working group to reach out to more other countries. We've been reaching out even to Saudi Arabia and Russia, and getting them involved as well. So we are trying to be open as much as possible, and get them jump started in getting involved as soon as possible.
Great. So another part of the question, I think something that really jumped out is you all have done a remarkable job in helping to aggregate and align on some common priorities. And can you maybe talk a little bit more about how you went about defining those priorities and maybe also balancing kind of different interests in specific diseases or tissues across various countries?
Yeah, and we were fortunate enough to have 3 in-person meetings in the last 3 years, and we had series of breakout sessions. And a lot of these breakout sessions revolved around themes such as cancer or infectious disease or genetic diversity. And that just naturally brought people of similar interests together and start discussing about how to form groups and try to formulate ideas for proposals and funds. So hopefully there will be an opportunity here also through Latin America meeting, through breakout sessions, really get involved, participate, raise your hands, and share your interests, let your voice be heard. And I think that's a really great way to get involved. And of course, there are biological networks that others also have presented today. So I think that would also be a great way to get together.
So maybe one final question, Jay, is there was a lot of information in that talk. And looking at the number of parallels between HCA Asia and where what you've managed to achieve, and the ambitions, and what's clearly a very nascent and excited group across Latin America, do you have kind of a key point of advice that you would give to this group, either the organizers or also others, to really kind of help them continue the momentum and continue to grow?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's culturally different. Asians are very shy, tend to be very shy. So we had to work really hard to get people speak and participate. I don't know. I think Latin Americans may be a little bit more active. But I think it's all about participation. Whatever you can, get an opportunity to get people together and participate. We had also many social events organized, and hopefully in the future there'll be opportunities to get together, and not in a formal setting but more in the informal setting, and that's, I think, where the great ideas come from. So yeah, I do hope that the Latin America, these meetings will continue over the next few years and really build relationship. Maybe we had 3 meetings, but from the first meeting nothing really concrete came out. But it's only through the second meeting we were able to finally form groups and apply for funding. And thanks to CCI, we were able to launch that AIDA project. So it may not happen right away, but I think just having constant conversations is really important, and build that relationship, and eventually it will evolve into a group. So I really want to thank Cheyenne Prabhakar from Singapore and Unyang Park from Korea, who really also, we work really well together, and we've been able to push a lot of our ideas together. So I think identifying the key interests, but also key leaders, and working together moving forward. So all the best, and congratulations to Latin America. Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Jay. I think we'll all look forward to those in-person meetings and also
Yeah.
hopefully some ways to connect that before that. So thank you very much.